spoiling all the fun at every party this spring. I get so bored I could scream. Who's there? That's Red Butler. Sir, you are no gentleman.
And you, miss, are no lady.
Don't you want to marry me?
I'm going to marry Melanie.
But you can't. None of you care for me. I can't think of anything bad enough to call it.
Here's a soldier of the South who loves you, Scarlett. Wants to feel your arms around him. Wants to carry the memory of your kisses into battle with him. Scarlett, kiss me. Kiss me once.
I didn't know it. Please believe me. You must care.
I love you more than I've ever loved any woman. And I've waited longer for you than I've ever waited for any woman.
Where shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Gone with the Wind. Now, adjusted for inflation, Gone with the Wind is still the highest grossing film of all time. It made more money adjusted for inflation than Titanic or any of the other great big epics. And it was the all-time Academy Award winner. It won 10 Academy Awards for what was at the time almost every single category. Script writing, photography, you name it. Now, if you remember from my last review, I thought that the best movie of all time was not Gone with the Wind, which was second best, but The Three Godfathers. Well, guess what? Before doing this review, I watched Gone with the Wind again. And you know what? In my opinion, it's still better, slightly better, than The Godfather, because it's an unbelievable epic. Long before they had special effects, everything in that movie, including a famous Civil War hospital scene with thousands of people in it, and the great fire when Grant took Richmond and burned the whole city down. I don't know if it was an accident or if they did it on purpose, but in Hollywood, they burned down the whole outside studio lot of MGM Pictures to be able to do a realistic, magnificent fire scene. So now I'm going to talk about the movie. Well, Gone with the Wind. Well, first of all, the title, Gone with the Wind, is indicative of the fact that once upon a time there was a aristocracy in the American South. Well, the economy there was based on cotton and slaves mostly. And the upper class, which were white people, of course, lived in big, beautiful mansions, had a wonderful social life, and when it came time to confront the North, they had very unrealistic expectations. Here is an economy with no steel industry to speak of. They had to import most of their weapons from England. And here the young fellas in the beginning of the movie are talking about how easy it is going to be to trounce them damn Yankees from the North. Wow. Well, I guess we see that today in many instances. People who don't have a chance of winning a war are talking about how easy it is to beat the enemy. Well, getting back to our story, the Gone with the Wind opens with a scene in one of these mansions where a young belle called Scarlett O'Hara, played by a big star of the era, Vivien Leigh, is going to her first like debutante coming out party, and all the boys in the neighboring towns are after her because she's a well, not only is she sexy and beautiful, but she's rich and she's a good marriage partner. Well, the title, Gone with the Wind, indicates that this wonderful, beautiful life of riches and elegance is about to disappear. And the title refers to Gone with the Wind. That whole life was wiped away by the Civil War, and it's gone with the wind, gone forever. Now, for those of you who are like me, who went through divorces, your good life could be gone with the wind too, but we don't want to deviate from our main topic. Okay, now one of the nice things about Gone with the Wind is you could identify, or at least I could identify, with the main characters. Scarlett, of course, is a gorgeous woman. Every woman, well, not every woman, but women of the old days would like to identify with her. She's gorgeous, she knows what she wants, and she gets it. Her opposite number, played by Clark Gable, is Rhett Butler. And I personally could identify with Rhett Butler even when I was 20 years old, because he was very much like my all-time hero, Scrooge McDuck. He had ideals, he was a very good guy, but that came all second to making money. And in this movie, Clark Gable, or Rhett Butler, is kind of a good-natured scoundrel who ultimately falls in love with Scarlett, and Scarlett doesn't really fall in love with him, but marries him anyway because he's a good catch. And this is all against the background of the American Civil War. A lot of fighting, action, terror, destruction. It's a wonderful, epic movie. And by the way, I think the great period, the golden age of movies was about 1935 to 1945. And in that time, if you haven't seen these movies already, well, here, The Wizard of Oz was made in that period. The Grapes of Wrath. And another movie that was called the #1 movie of all time, called Citizen Kane, was about a newspaper magnate who rises to power, but is an unhappy fellow. But I saw Citizen Kane, and I'd give that a score of 80 versus Gone with the Wind, which gets a 99, just about as perfect a movie as you could ever get. And then, of course, another movie of that era that if you haven't seen, you just have to see, Casablanca, with Humphrey Bogart, a wonderful World War II movie with not too much military action, but a lot of drama with Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. But getting back to the champion movie, the best movie ever made, the best movie of all time in my opinion, Gone with the Wind. Here's my personal story of Gone with the Wind. Back in the days before the internet, people got dates by putting ads in the paper. And when I was living in California, there was a famous newspaper where you could even put in sexy ads, that, two girls want to have one guy in bed with them, things like that. And I used to always advertise in there, and I'd say, rich bachelor would like company in his hot tub. And I got a lot of inquiries, and one of the inquiry came from a girl who sounded very attractive on the phone. You didn't get pictures in those days, but this girl said, she was willing to come up to my house and maybe join me in the hot tub if she liked me. And I said, sure, come on. So she came over, and I said to her, among other things, well, what's your claim to fame? She says, well, I got a very big claim to fame. I was, in fact I am, the only surviving star who played a major role in Gone with the Wind. Oh my God, what an epiphany. I said to myself, this is the girl I'm gonna love and marry and be with forever. But she isn't Vivien Leigh. Not only that, Vivien Leigh was now about 90 years old, and wow. But anyway, this girl was my age, around 30. So that meant we were both born the year Gone with the Wind was made, 1938. We are exactly the same age. But now I'm thinking to myself, how could she have been a star if Gone with the Wind was made in 1938 and she was born in 1938? So of course I said, hey, how the heck could you be a star in Gone with the Wind? She said, ha, my parents were writers and studio people with MGM in 1938. And I was a newborn baby. And the call went out that Clark Gable and Vivien Leigh just had a baby, obviously not real, in the movie. And so this girl, I even forgot her name, she was called into service as a newborn baby in that movie. Now I think she had about 20 seconds on screen, but you know, I say I'm a star of a movie when I might have only been in 20 seconds too. So she was the newborn baby in Gone with the Wind. Well, as time passed, I dated her a few times, and well, like 99% of the girls I dated, there just wasn't really good chemistry, and we didn't get along that well. I mean, we were friendly, but no long-term relationship. Okay, so what happened then was she gives me a parting gift. She said, hey, I got something for you. I said, what's that? She said, well, how would you like the original mass-produced copy, the mass-market copy of Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell? It's maybe 600 pages long, and it wasn't as beat up then as the copy I'm going to show you now, 50 years later. But here it is. Okay, well, this book, the original Gone with the Wind, that was a bestseller, and that was what the movie was made from. It followed it pretty closely. At the time she gave it to me, it was already a little beat up because it was already 30 years old. And now, this is 55 years later. So the book is really beat up, but it has all the pages, it has the cover. And since I've had it for, wow, more than 50 years, I'm happy to sell it to any of my viewers for $100. And if you're in the area of Nice, France, you can come and pick it up. If you're somewhere else, well, I guess I'll still sell it for $100 or €100, either one. And you have to pay the postage too. And the postage has gone up a lot. I can remember the days when a postcard was a penny postcard. Now that same postcard is about $1.50. So that shows you, people are talking about, oh, the dollar's going to collapse. Well, how about 1 penny to 1.50? I think it's already collapsed. Okay, so getting back to Gone with the Wind. It's a great story. It's online. I think you might even be able to get it on YouTube for free. And I highly recommend Gone with the Wind. It's probably the greatest movie ever made in the history of movies. Now go around this. Here's a little tidbit you won't hear from anybody else. After Gone with the Wind came out, Germany, under the Minister of Propaganda, Goebbels was his name, says, you know, we can do anything better than the democracies, and so we're going to have a movie even better than Gone with the Wind. And the movie that he came out with was called Kohlberg. And this was a patriotic movie about the defense of a German town that is now called Kaliningrad, owned by Russia, but it was then the part of Prussia, and which was of course Germany. And it was a patriotic movie in which thousands of soldiers were deployed to defend successfully the city against Napoleon. And of course, if you compare it to Gone with the Wind, hey, no comparison at all. But it is an epic, and you can probably, Forbidden. It didn't do much for Germany because by the time it was actually came out, all the German theaters had been bombed into rubble, and very few Germans ever saw it. And it was banned by the Allies after World War II because it was too German and patriotic. But anyway, you can still find that. I once saw it even on YouTube. So that's the story of Kohlberg. By the way, the extras that were used in the movie Kohlberg, produced by Germany in the waning days of World War II, when the Germans were getting severely beaten and defeated by the Russians, the 10,000 best looking young uninjured troops were pulled to be extras in this movie. Crazy, huh?